In the year 605 BC, the unstoppable Babylonian army under King Nebuchadnezzar swept into Judah like a storm. Jerusalem fell, the temple treasures were looted, and among the young nobles dragged into exile were 4 teenagers, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The king gave them new Babylonian names to erase their identity. Daniel became Belteshazzar, Hananiah became Shadrach, Mishael became Meshach, and Azariah became Abednego. They were taken to the royal palace in Babylon, the greatest city on earth, with its hanging gardens, massive walls, and golden ziggurats. For 3 years they would be trained in Babylonian language, literature, and magic. The king even ordered them to eat his rich royal food and drink his wine, the best in the empire. But Daniel made a bold decision in his heart. I will not defile myself with the king's food. He politely asked the chief official for a 10-day test, only vegetables and water. The official was terrified of the king, but Daniel's quiet confidence won him over. 10 days later, the 4 Hebrew boys looked healthier and stronger than all the others who ate the royal diet. God had already begun to bless them. The stage was set. 4 young exiles were about to shake the most powerful empire in the world. King Nebuchadnezzar had a terrifying dream. A massive statue with a head of gold, chest of silver, belly of bronze, legs of iron and feet of iron mixed with clay. Then a rock cut out by no human hand smashed the statue to dust and grew into a mountain that filled the whole earth. The king woke up shaking. He demanded his wise men, magicians and astrologers tell him both the dream and its meaning, or they would be torn limb from limb. The terrified men cried out, "No one can do that except the gods." The king ordered them all executed. Daniel and his friends were next on the death list. But instead of panicking, Daniel asked for time and went home with his 3 friends. That night they prayed desperately, and in a vision, the God of heaven revealed the dream and its meaning to Daniel. At dawn, Daniel stood before the furious king and said, "There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. Your dream, O king, shows the rise and fall of empires, starting with your golden kingdom. But one day the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed." Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and declared, "Your God is truly the God of gods." Daniel was promoted to ruler over the entire province of Babylon, and his 3 friends were given high positions too. But the king's pride was already growing. King Nebuchadnezzar built a 90-foot-tall golden statue on the plain of Dura and ordered every official in the empire to bow down and worship it when the music played, or be thrown into a blazing furnace. The music blasted, everyone bowed, except Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Furious officials reported them to the king. Nebuchadnezzar gave them one last chance, bow or burn. The 3 young men stood tall and answered with legendary courage, "Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. But even if he does not, we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image." The king's face turned purple with rage. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter, so hot that the soldiers who threw them in were burned alive. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were tied up and hurled into the flames. The king leaped to his feet in shock. "Did we not throw 3 men in? I see 4 men walking unbound in the fire, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." He called them out. Not a hair was singed. Not even the smell of smoke was on their clothes. Nebuchadnezzar praised the God of Israel and promoted the 3 even higher. But the king's heart was still not fully surrendered. Years later, Nebuchadnezzar had another dream. A huge tree reaching to heaven, giving food to all creatures. A holy watcher from heaven commanded, "Cut down the tree. Let him live like an animal for 7 years, until he knows that the Most High rules the kingdoms of men." Daniel interpreted it with a heavy heart. "You, O king, are that tree. You will be driven away from people, eat grass like an ox, and live with the wild animals until you acknowledge that God is sovereign." 12 months later, while the king was walking on his palace roof boasting, "Is not this great Babylon I have built by my own power?" a voice from heaven spoke. Immediately his mind left him. For 7 long years, King Nebuchadnezzar lived like a wild animal. hair like eagle feathers, nails like bird claws, eating grass in the fields. At the end of the time, his sanity returned. He looked up to heaven and praised the Most High God. The kingdom was restored to him greater than before. Nebuchadnezzar's final words became one of the greatest testimonies in the Bible. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and exalt and glorify the King of heaven, because everything he does is right and all his ways are just. But the next king would not learn from his father's mistakes. King Belshazzar threw a wild party for 1,000 nobles, using the gold and silver cups stolen from God's temple in Jerusalem. As they drank and praised their idols, a ghostly hand appeared and wrote on the palace wall, "Mene, mene, tekel, parsin." The king turned pale, his knees knocked. None of his wise men could read or explain it. The queen mother remembered Daniel and begged the king to call him. Daniel stood before the terrified king and boldly declared, "Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Parsin, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians." That very night, the Persian army diverted the Euphrates River and marched under the walls. Belshazzar was killed. The mighty Babylonian Empire fell in a single night, exactly as Daniel had prophesied. Darius the Mede took over the kingdom, and Daniel was about to face his greatest test yet. Darius loved Daniel and planned to promote him over the whole kingdom. Jealous officials tricked the king into signing a law. For 30 days, anyone who prayed to any god or man, except the king, would be thrown into the lion's den. Daniel knew the law, but he continued praying 3 times a day toward Jerusalem, just as he had always done. The officials caught him and rushed to the king. Darius was trapped by his own decree. With a heavy heart, he ordered Daniel thrown in. The king spent a sleepless night. At dawn, he ran to the den and cried out, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to rescue you?" A calm voice answered from the darkness, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight." The king was overjoyed. Daniel was lifted out, not a scratch on him. The jealous officials and their families were thrown in instead, and the lions devoured them before they even hit the ground. Darius issued a decree that everyone in the empire must fear and respect the God of Daniel. Now an old man, Daniel began receiving visions that would shape the future of the world. In one he saw 4 terrifying beasts rise from the sea: a lion with eagle wings, a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth, a leopard with 4 wings, and a dreadful beast with iron teeth and 10 horns. Then the scene shifted to heaven. Thrones were set in place. The Ancient of Days, God himself, took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, his hair like pure wool. A river of fire flowed before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. The little horn on the 4th beast was judged. The beast was slain and thrown into the fire. Then one like a son of man came with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was given authority, glory, and sovereign power over every nation, a kingdom that will never pass away. Daniel was troubled and asked for the meaning. The visions pointed to future empires and the ultimate victory of God's eternal kingdom. But even greater visions were coming. God is still the same God who shuts lions' mouths, walks in the fire with his people, and sets up a kingdom that will never end. Your fiery furnace or lion's den moment may be right now, but the Ancient of Days is on the throne.